Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our question on who has the greatest successor chapters. If you missed part 1 yesterday, make sure to go back and give that a listen before continuing with this one. Now, there's no real need for a spoiler warning today, but just keep in mind we will be referencing events from across the lore of Warhammer 40k. And with that said, let's waste no more time and just jump straight in. Okay, so yesterday we began our discussion on the bloodlines of the Primarchs, focusing on the successor chapters of the first founding, asking just which one of them would you name as the greatest. As always with these discussions, there are no right or wrong answers, just the fun of the debate and conversation. No one line of successor chapters is greater than any other. It's just what one really stands out for you, which one's nature or legacy sets them as a breed apart. As usual, drop your own thoughts in the comments below. Now, yesterday we covered the Ultramarine Successors, the White Scar Successor Chapters, the Iron Hand Successors and the Imperial Fist Successors. And that's a lot of successors all in one sentence. I also ruled out my beloved Sons of Russ, as simply there's just not enough history there yet for their successors to have carved a legacy. For me personally, the White Scar successors are still fairly unknown, though the Storm Reapers seem poised for forging a strong legacy in the future. The Iron Hand successors really do exhibit the traits of Ferrous Manus, which I absolutely love, just giving their bloodline a great feel and aura about it. The Imperial Fist successors are a strong contender for me, having those traits of their Primarch visible, with a strong sense of unity. And then there's the legacy of Guilliman, the successors who have been the bedrock of the Astartes since the days of the Scouring. However, today we have some big players still to discuss, so let's begin with one of those, the Unforgiven. There are few if any successor lines founded in such a difficult situation. The Dark Angels embraced Guilliman's Codex Astartes solely to avoid any attention coming on to their legion, still reeling in the aftermath of Caliban's destruction and the loss of their Primarch. Yet not only did the Dark Angels embrace these new laws, the resultant Unforgiven excelled. The history of the Unforgiven chapters is one filled with victories, with many assembling records akin to their parent chapter. In every way, the successors of the Dark Angels have exemplified the Legion of old, the legacy of Lion L. Johnson, and that's quite possibly closer to the truth than first expected, for the Unforgiven chapters have remained extremely close and bonded, unified in their hunt for the traitor fallen. While perhaps a stain on their legacy, attempting to hide the sins of their past, and undoubtedly so for their abandonment of Imperial forces to do so more often than not, their conviction, their steadfast unity, is surely to be commended. In fact, with the return of Guilliman, and the misgivings surrounding his apparent reforming of legions, assembling the might of his sons, there were whispers that it was the Sons of the Lion who represented the best counter, the one true force who could stop Guilliman should the unthinkable happen. Now, a non-Primarch force stopping one led by a Primarch, Guilliman no less, is unlikely to say the least. But it's the fact it was the Unforgiven looked to, or whispered of at least, that is something that can't be ignored. And now the Lion is returned. While angry at the loss of his legion, he may find himself pleasantly surprised by how intact the Unforgiven are, how easily he may be able to wield them as the wings of the Legion of old. The Unforgiven have their fair share of hidden secrets. Of that there is no doubt. But in terms of a sheer fighting force, they are a match for anyone. The Consecrators, the Angels of Absolution, Disciples of Caliban, Angels of Vengeance, Angels of Redemption, the list goes on. A lot of their actions have transpired away from the eyes of the Imperium. Perhaps if not, we could be talking of a renegade line. Or conversely, quite possibly, there'd be no debate at all on just who is the greatest bloodline. Moving on, we have the successors of the Salamanders. Now, these guys for me are really unknown. We've all seen the awesome look of the Dark Krakens chapter, and I remember them getting a little attention back in White Dwarf a year or so ago, and I definitely loved the feel of the chapter. However, on the whole, we rarely if ever see any mentions of Salamander successors. So what do we know? Well, with the losses suffered by the Salamanders Legion in the Heresy, combined with the fact they were already one of the smallest legions, Vulcan appealed to his brother for the Salamanders to not be split with the implementation of the Codex. And Guilliman relented. Just how and why remains to be seen in the Scouring series. However, we know at the time of the second founding, the Salamanders will not be split into successor chapters. As of the 9th edition Space Marine Codex, the Salamanders are officially recognised to have had no known successors until Belisarius's Ultima founding. However, it's widely recognised that Black Dragons and Storm Giants, for example, were successors founded from Salamander gene seed in foundings previously. So, regardless of the truth, it is only now the Salamanders have begun to reach out to their successor chapters. And so, much like with the Sons of Russ, the Salamander successors can't really be judged as of yet, despite my love for the Black Dragons. So, moving on, next we have the Chapters of the Blood, the successors of the Blood Angels. I don't think there's any bloodline out there that's truly had to carry such an eternal struggle such as the Sons of Sanguinius. For them, existence is an eternal fight against the rage and the thirst. It's arguable no bloodline has been more scarred by the loss of their Primarch. Yet for all those internal struggles, or maybe in spite of them, none can say a successor line has fought harder for mankind. And in fact, considering the line of Sanguinius truly slides towards extinction, none should even argue it. As famous as the Blood Angels' name is across the Imperium, their successors have equally lived up to their Primarch's legacy. Though fewer in number, and not readily used in foundings as much as Guilliman's line, their names are recognisable immediately. The Flesh Tearers chapter, the Angels Sanguine, the Blood Drinkers, Lamenters, Angels in Carmine, the Carmine Blades. Perhaps the ultimate testament to the virtues of each of these chapters is how virtually every single successor summoned by Dante for the defense of Baal came to the aid of their ancestral home. Though it was a beyond huge request to place in front of the Angel successor line, and admittedly those initial meetings were tense, the devastation of Baal was won. The line of Sanguinius was united, a reborn Blood Angels legion of old. Would each other successor line out there dedicate their entire chapters to defending a world no longer theirs, in the name of history? I'm not so sure they all would. In the aftermath now, Despite the trials facing Imperium Nihilus, Commander Dante rebuilds the Blood Angels anew, and he is sure to repay the debt owed to his successors, ensuring they receive equal bodies, arms, and supplies. Though maybe one day the line of Sanguinius might end, today is not that day. And while but one son of Sanguinius lives, the forces of the ruinous powers will never be victorious. And finally, the Raven Guard Successors. For a chapter renowned for its isolationist nature, it's surprising to know the Raven Guard appear to have fostered a strong relationship with their successors, or at least a strong form of respect. As we discussed earlier in the week, tradition and the nature of Corax are very strongly exhibited within the Raven Guard's successor line, and considering they don't have some form of unified cause, such as the Unforgiven for example, I think it speaks extremely well to this relationship. To me, it shows the line has remained true to the teachings of their Primarch. As a whole, the Raven Guard have some very popular successors: the Raptors, the Iron Ravens, the Death Spectres. Unlike other bloodlines, their victories aren't heralded, celebrated, or revered. But that's the nature of Corax, and thus his sons. Were they more inclined to pomp and ceremony? Well, we could well be hearing the name of those chapters commonly amongst the greatest. Yet they remain in the shadows. Were the Imperium to know the truth of the Revilers' shadow war against the Alpha Legion, for example, many could well be stunned by the danger that's been averted. The sacrifice the Raven Guard line makes. The Death Spectres, for example, stationed out beyond the borders, maintaining vigil of the threat of the Ghoul Stars. A selfless dedication to duty. The Sons of Corax won't get the plaudits or recognition for most of the actions and duties they perform, and luckily for the Imperium, they don't need it. So that rounds out the lines of all the successors. Who to you is the greatest, however you wish to interpret that? For me, I don't think you could or should overlook the record of Guilliman's line. Yes, they have been the gene seed founded the most, and so are by far the most populous. However, honestly, that simply means they have been the bulwark that has so often turned back the dark. If any line of successors out there deserve to be labelled the greatest, I think you have to say it's them that has earned the right. Now, I do however have a fondness for the successor lines that have maintained particularly strong connections, such as the Imperial Fist successors and the Raven Guards. The line of Dawn and Corax has really retained the traits of their Primarchs, in what feels like a bit more consistency than say Guilliman's, and I've really enjoyed looking into the interactions between their chapters, the Templars' efforts to aid the Celestial Lions, and the simple respect of Corax, the Sons of Dawn's sheer stubborn refusal to submit, exemplified by the Crimson Fists. Not to mention Corax's dedication to duty, the complete lack of need for celebration. Given the legacy of the Black Templars, the Crimson Fists, the story of the Celestial Lions, I definitely think the Imperial Fist line is worthy of respect. But the recognition and nod just has to go to the line of Guilliman. They may be Ultramarines in different colours for the most part, but that's a testament to their accomplishments. They have been the true line of the Imperium's defence for nigh on 10,000 years. That is something truly remarkable. But as always everyone, what do you think? Who has the greatest successor line? Drop your own thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.